Hi, I'm Monetta. I am from St. Lucia and I live in St. Lucia. So, how I got into yoga, the long story is back in the 90s, early 2000s, there was Denise Austin had this program on Lifetime. And one of them was called Fit and Life, and it was based on yoga. And after that, I went to the Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut, and my best friend invited me to do the yoga club, which was like $2 a month. And the only catch was it was early in the morning, 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning, and we'd have to skip breakfast. They'd give us the breakfast instead. So I signed up for that, and I started doing yoga in this huge ballroom with a wooden floor, glass floor to ceiling, glass wall, looking out onto the river, the sun coming up. And then for the first time, my body was responding to exercise. I was growing a little muscle on my little skinny arms. And then I went to grad school at the University of South Florida. I did yoga there. I tried it there, and it was man. Yoga at a regular university is just it was in a basement with a carpet mess. So I started doing podcasts, yoga podcast on my iPod video,
Mhm.
and and then I in 2010 I was in New York City. I was practicing at a studio in New York City. I was working, and I thought if I can't do environmental science, which was what my education was in, I could be a yoga teacher. So fast forward to 2012, I'm back in St. Lucia. I'm teaching high school math, and my brother gets killed from gun violence at the carnival parade. And I end up getting fibromyalgia. And after my diagnosis, my doctor is like, "Well, what kind of exercise do you like?" And I'm like, "Running. I love running."
Mhm.
And she's like, "Well, can you run right now?" I was like, "No." He said, "What about yoga?" I was like, "Oh, I love yoga, but there's no yoga." At that time, there was maybe like one yoga studio, maybe two, and they were all like over a good like 90 minutes away from me, 2 hours away from my job. And I was like, "Well, I always wanted to do yoga teacher training." And she's like, "Well, now is a good time to do it." So I got everything in order to do the yoga teacher training in DC. My same best friend who brought me to the yoga club was in DC at the time, so I chose a place near her house. It was a Black lady. It really resonated with me, and I spent that summer learning how to teach yoga. And when I came back to St. Lucia, my principal had not told me that my job was gone.
Oh.
Yeah, you know, these things happen.
Mhm.
And then and she didn't tell me, and the school year started, and everyone has packed up their schools, and I was like, but I was gonna only teach for one more year anyway because I didn't like being in the schools, not the students. The
Mhm.
students were teenagers, but the environment with the work environment was not of that. I was like, I was gonna teach for another year. So I started building a business. That was 2013. I started building cold calling, cold emailing, going here and there, knocking on doors. And by 2015, I won Young Entrepreneur of the Year for
Mhm.
starting a yoga business in a place with no yoga. And I was on TV lots and just made sure, like, on some level, I met my goal of letting people in my community know that yoga is for them too.
Mhm.
That's the long version of how
Yeah.
I came to yoga.
But that's amazing. That's amazing. And how have you, over the years, been sharing or evangelizing yoga to Black women, and why specifically to them? And is there like a different kind of benefit that Black women would get from yoga?
So, in case people may not know, St. Lucia was one of the places that they took our ancestors from Africa and brought them here against their will.
Mhm.
And the difference between the US being that St. Lucia is over 90% Black.
Mhm.
So my community is inherently Black. I grew up around Black women. And then it was a British colony until 1979. So and also it was over 90%
Mhm.
for the longest, for until probably like 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
All the schools were like colonialism.
Mhm.
Um, so um, because of the colonization of yoga, Black people all over the world think yoga is something for skinny white women.
Mm.
Yoga is something you do if you're rich, if you have time on your hands, if you're flexible. And I wanted to let people in my community know that yoga is just another thing that you can use to help you connect to your body, manage your well-being, manage your emotions. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to let people know that. So I would go anywhere people would listen to me. Like Women's Business Summit. Oh, Women's Business Summit, are you gonna pay me?
Mhm.
Okay, I can give you 15 minutes. You're not gonna pay me. You're not gonna get a whole hour, but I'll pop for 15 minutes and I'll tell these business women that, hey, this is something you can do. Like, here's how it can help you. Like, you want me to be on the TV? Okay, you're gonna have to meet my schedule. So for the first few years, most of my money was coming from resort, but I tried to keep my classes, my local classes affordable. I set up a YouTube channel and then I started writing books. One of the things I really, really wanted to do was because when I came back to St. Lucia, the kids were more open to yoga than people. The
Mhm.
church was fighting me. They were making my mom uncomfortable at church, but my mom really don't care with nothing. She was a teenage mom, a single teenage mom. Like, there ain't much you can say to her.
Right.
And so the kids were like I would go to the after school program and people would be like, my son does not like people.
Mhm.
My not like to exercise. My son came home and he wouldn't stop talking about yoga and every day he would get up and do some on his
Mhm.
and so I was doing all of that voluntarily when I started. And so I wanted to I developed a whole training program so teachers could teach yoga in the classroom because I mean, think about growing up as a little Black girl. If that was something you just knew, hey, when I start to have really big feelings and feel really fuzzy, I can stop and take a deep breath. And like you had the experience of it working as a
Mhm.
child, that you carry that into adulthood. And so that was one of my goals. But again, the church, the people, the colonization. So I wrote a book because I started getting super busy with resort work that was making me be able to feed myself. But I didn't want the kids to not be able to do yoga with me. So I made a book and I put
Mhm.
their pictures in it. And
Oh.
it's it's a follow along book. And
Mhm.
did a whole press run and everything just so people could see like, hey, look at these kids. They look like me. They're doing
Mhm.
this. And there's a whole curriculum to go with it to train teachers. I'm hoping one of my goals this year is to get that curriculum back up so parents can do it because I've
Mhm.
done a few sessions and parents can do it and have another parenting tool as a Black woman when those kids are driving you up the wall to be like, hey, my friend actually recently told me because at the start of the pandemic, I used to do kids yoga once a week online, and
Mhm.
she said to me, I recently used the breathing on a sheet of paper with my daughter, and she was having some big feeling. I was like, "Huh?" And so I'm rumbling.
Let me ask you this. You said that there was a lot of pushback from the church, Catholic Church. Um,
All the churches.
all the churches. So I think a lot of people don't really know why a lot of churches speak out against yoga. So
Mhm.
I know a lot of it's around colonization, traditional religion, et cetera, and yoga being more of an Eastern religious practice. So can you kind of share what that looks like, why, like some of the reasons why, and what the benefits of yoga is, because I know you already mentioned connecting with yourself, the breathing, etc. But for a lot of Black women, they have been caught up in the traditional religious colonizer mindset, and trying new things is scary because you've been told, "Oh, that's dangerous. It's demonic. It's this, that, and the other." So, kind of share what yoga is and why the church has such a big problem with it.
Okay, so the push from the church is actually a push from the religious right in the US. That's where the push actually, if you dig into it, you'll see everyone is using the same talking points. They're saying yoga is demonic because it's not of the Lord. First, that's what they're saying. And then they're saying yoga encourages you to empty your mind. First, it says it's devil worship, which we'll come to. And then they say yoga encourages you to empty your mind. And when you empty your mind, that makes space for demons to come into.
Right.
Not of the Lord. I grew up in the church. I went to church school. Matthew, is it Matthew? Anyway, some verse in the New Testament says, other sheep that I have that are not of the fold, they too must come unto me. Yoga says there is one yoga, many paths. Same thing. People will find their way to their higher power on their own. Evangelical Christian tells us there is only one way, and it is that way. If they're Pentecostal, it's only Pentecostal. Unless it's an ecumenical denomination, they're like, if this is the only way, everyone else is wrong. Yoga does not. Yoga says, whatever religious tradition you have or don't come with that, let's connect, let's you journey and figure it out for yourself. So that's one, the not of the Lord. Empty your mind. I have read many yoga books, and never have I seen empty your mind. There are 8 limbs of yoga. There's concentration. You're supposed to concentrate on things. There's meditation. It's meditation on a higher power. The Bible is full throughout all of Psalms and many other verses to tell us to meditate. When I was growing up, I was maybe 7 years old, and I learned prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening. And then what was the third one? That was the empty your mind. I forget the one, but that's the fear that has been put into people, so they don't even try it for themselves. And the benefits depend on the people. Yoga, we come into this world as a blank slate. And if you're lucky, you have elders who tell you how things are. But they're not you. And so they can only tell you things based on their experience.
Right.
And you have to figure out things for yourself also based on your own experience. And at the same time, the world is sending you all of these messages. You know, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. And if you're a Black woman, you're getting the messages of you're ugly, you're stupid, you don't deserve nice things. All you're good for is to work hard and suffer. And so what yoga teaches us is all of these things are distractions from who you are and what your purpose is supposed to be. And it invites you to turn back inward to figure out who you really are, who you're really meant to be, and what you're really meant to do in this world. Which, when you figure that out, it becomes, for a lot of people, easier to love yourself, to support yourself, to stop chasing external validation, stop burning yourself out for something you don't even want, but society told you that you needed. And it gives you the power to take better care of yourself.
All of that. I love all of that. And that's one of the things that I definitely, all those things is what I preach, but I'm glad that yoga is almost like a container for all of that. If you're willing to learn it, if you're willing to be honest with yourself, if you're willing to let go of the fear of what it could be and try it for yourself. I think religion is a means of control, mind control, and yoga is a means to free your mind. And so I'm just so thankful that you shared that, because it's true. Just even the breath work alone is a great way to reconnect with yourself, center yourself, and manage your emotions and learning coping skills.
And here's the thing about religion. Growing up in a church school and in really like super conservative, I was taught that God gave everyone freedom of choice, and that if you don't respect other people's freedom of choice when it came to religion, that you were going against God. And I feel as if 98% of religious people didn't get that
Right.
talk.
Right.
They didn't get it, or they did and they chose to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead, they use religion. We could tell a long time. Instead, they use religion to try and control people. Short of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just want to say, like, religion isn't anti. Like, there's space in yoga for religion.
Mm-hmm.
It's religion that tends to not have space for yoga.
You're right.
One of there's this illness called chikungunya, which is a mosquito-borne illness, which devastated this country. And it's like long COVID, there was long chikungunya. And my mom used to come to my yoga studio, and then one day she says to me, "Here's what I do," and I feel the best. I wake up in the morning. I do my yoga exercise that we do with you every time we come to class. And then I read my Bible, and then I pray, and then I'm ready to start the day. I'm like, nothing. How you know that's what it says to doing the yoga? It says to move. So your body becomes relaxed and comfortable. Then concentrate on something, which you're concentrating on the Bible, and then meditate, which you do. Inherently, prayer and meditation go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's great. And that's such a simple morning routine, that she's created for herself. And I think the simpler the better, and yoga can help with that, because like and I'm not very well versed on yoga again, because I was not because my ligaments are loose, and so I can't do a lot of the poses for long, and it will hurt my body. But at any rate, so are there like timed yoga practices, like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or, where you can create a routine for yourself that doesn't feel like a whole 30 minute or 60-minute class?
Okay, amazing. I have a book for that. But before I talk about my book, I want to talk about what you refer to as ligaments. So there's in the West, particularly in the US, there's a gymnastics. I got injured. I tried yoga. Dance. I got injured. I tried yoga. And a lot of these people are the batch of yoga teachers that get the most exposure. And we know what gymnastics and dance people look like. And so because yoga seems to be about flexibility, these people without very much effort can easily do the most complicated poses without actually stretching their muscles, because they're using their loose ligaments, to use that term. And so when people like you go to yoga, they will do the thing of colonization, of praising people like you and pushing you. And what that, instead of you being benefited and feeling the stretch, you end up hurting yourself because they're competing, which is inherent in Western culture, to compete, which is not in yoga. They're doing it to look a certain way when yoga asks you to feel. So that's one of the things we were trained to look for. And that's one of the, like, I was thinking this past week, how it's so hard to do an online YouTube thing, because I can't see who's dropping into their ligaments instead of using their muscles. So there's a lot of simple ways to make people like you safely do yoga without hurting themselves. But that takes a teacher who's all about true yoga, decolonization, looking inwards and not performing.
Okay.
So that's a whole other topic. But that's something that I do, and that's something a lot of people out there also do. But not as many as I wish, because I will say, hey, you, that elbow thing you're doing, let's not do that. Let's take this muscle, move it this way, let's do that. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, yeah. See everybody else who's been sweating, and they'll be like, oh, this is why people hate this pose. I'm like, yeah, yeah. You were ruining your elbow. They're like, it's been 11 years of yoga. Huh? Let's do that. Elbow, elbow.
Mhm.
And it's simple things like that. I just wanted to let you know that
Okay.
whatever ailment people have, yoga can accommodate them. You just have to find people who are doing accessible yoga, who are willing to accommodate you and who are not about the water bottle, the brand name leggings, and the putting your foot behind your head, the
Right.
fancy, what we call the fancy poses. So for 5 minutes, I'm glad you asked the question because in addition to my kids' book, I worked on in the doctor's waiting room. I worked on a book.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
5 minutes. It's called 5 Minutes of Peace Yoga for Today's Women.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was that women tend to be busy. We tend to have to do it all, think we have to do it all, and not make time for ourselves. So for various reasons, people might think a whole hour. You want me to take a whole hour of my day, drive to the yoga studio, drive back. That's not gonna. So I thought, well, you don't have to actually. That's just because of the westernization of yoga. You can do it in your comfort of your own home, 5 minutes. If you have 5 minutes, you can do 5 poses each. 5 poses, 1 minute each. And so around that idea, I built 10 routines. Each routine is 5 poses. You do each pose for about a minute, and that's it. There's ones for more energetic to help you build strength, more relaxing. There's a chair yoga routine. And then if you start to like it, you can then put those routines together on a day you have more time. If you put those 5 minutes together, the 10 of them, that's 15. And then if you do a relaxation for 10 minutes, that's an hour.
Okay.
But you can do that later after you get more comfortable. And then I added a prenatal and a postnatal routine.
Oh, nice.
And it has pictures and instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in paperback with black and white pictures and in hardcover with full color pictures.
Wow. Where can we find that? Where can we get that book?
You can get it on Amazon if you search 5 Minutes of Peace by Monetta Wilson. You can get it in the paperback and the hardcover and for Kindle. And you don't need to have a Kindle to get a Kindle book. You can put it on your phone, your iPad, a desktop. And I know not everyone wants to support Amazon, and that's their choice to make. So I have a Patreon, and you can get the ebook version through that as well if you don't want to support Amazon. Because I want to accommodate everyone.
Yes. Well, thank you, Monetta. I am going to have all the links to your books, to your YouTube channel, everywhere, because I think this is so important. I'm definitely going to be getting the book so that I can try the poses out and do it the right way. And do you offer individual online classes for people?
Yes. I offer a consultation. If you go to my website, monettawilson.com, you can book an interest call and you can just talk to me because maybe you won't like me as a person. And that's your prerogative. And you'll be like, I don't understand a word she says. I don't like her eyes. Whatever reason, we can just see if we click, and that's like the first step. And then I offer a variety of things. The links are on my website. I offer just a quick class if that's something you're looking for. And then I have packages where I help you build a routine specifically for yourself. And after a few sessions with me, you can go off and do it on your own, or you can keep working with me. And all of those are available virtual sessions.
Excellent. Okay. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story about yoga, why it's important for us today, especially as busy women and as Black women who are trying to decolonize our mindset around yoga and self-care, etc. We are running out of time, but I definitely want to make sure that we all connect with Monetta on her website, monettawilson.com. We buy her books on Amazon and her Patreon. And I'll have all the links available for you. So, Monetta, thank you so much for being a part of the Blissful Life podcast, joining us and sharing your wisdom with us. I definitely would love to have you come back again for another episode because I want to talk more about yoga and the benefits of it and how you are, just sharing and teaching Black women specifically about self-care.
Awesome. And I just want to let you know whenever the podcast airs, you'll let me know the air date, and I will have on Amazon. I will bring the ebook down from $9.99 to $5.99 for 1 week after the podcast airs, so everyone can be able to get the book.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you all for listening to the Blissful Life podcast today. I hope that you will like this episode, you'll subscribe, and that you'll leave us a review. Definitely go visit Monetta on her website as well and her social media. Again, I will have the links in the description below. Take care, be well, and create the blissful life that you like, that you love, and that you truly deserve. And we'll talk to you again next time.